Coming up on Tech News Today, Apple will sense your motions soon. Katie Couric leaves for Yahoo, and we'll tell you who's winning the console wars. Maybe it's you. All that more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Monday, November 25th, 2013. Tech News Today is brought to you by ProXPN. ProXPN is a virtual private network that allows you to use the internet the way it should be, anonymously and without oversight. For 20% off your new account, go to proxpn.com/twit and use the code TNT. And by Stamps. Start using your time more effectively with Stamps.com. Use Stamps.com to buy and print real U.S. postage the instant you need it right from your desk. To get this special offer, go to Stamps.com now, click on the radio microphone, and enter TNT. That's Stamps.com, enter TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Isaac Akhtar.
I'm Jason Howell.
Sarah Lane has got a couple of days off. She should be back with us on Wednesday, but we have got the top 10 stories of the day for you in the news feeds. As expected, Apple has completed its acquisition of PrimeSense. That's the company that made the first-generation sensor for the Kinect on the Xbox. All Things D reports Apple paid around $360 million for the company. PrimeSense has been developing motion sensors for more compact devices, too, both kinds, with their Capri model, seemingly perfect for, I don't know, maybe a tablet or a phone?
Well, apparently people like
or
that
devices.
or devices coming soon. The iDevices. Apparently people like that Xbox One. Microsoft says it sold more than 1 million Xbox One units worldwide in less than 24 hours of its launch. But what launch could be complete without a few bugs? There are reports that some Xbox One disk drives are failing. Inserting a disk leads to a clicking or grinding noise, and those consoles cannot read the disk. Microsoft says the issue affects a very small number of units and is working directly with people to get them replacement Xbox Ones.
I thought that was just my teeth. Got it now. Samsung likes big phones, and it cannot lie. The Galaxy Grand 2, announced Monday, has a 5.25-inch 1280 by 720 display with a 16:9 aspect ratio. Also has a 1.2 gigahertz quad-core processor, 2,600 milliamp hour battery, and 8 gigabytes of storage, plus the usual SD card slot, and the not-so-usual dual SIM card capability. Device does not support LTE, though, meaning it's probably a European-oriented phone. Android 4.3 phone comes in white, black, and pink in selective regions. Those are Samsung's words. So if you're selective in your region, maybe you'll get pink. No other details were announced.
Uber just signed a deal to make it easier for Uber drivers to afford cars. Now, Uber's working with GM, Toyota, and an auto financing company so that qualified drivers can save $100 to $200 per month in car payments. The deal is live in 6 cities, which I will list in the order I visited them: New York, Chicago, Boston, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Dallas.
Oh, very nice. You know, the city of brotherly love has no love for 3D printed guns. The Philadelphia City Council voted unanimously to pass a bill banning the practice of printing your own firearm. 3D printed guns have been demonstrated, but are still experimental and unreliable. More
3D news. Motorola is partnering up with 3D Systems to develop Project Aura, Motorola's Lego-like open-source mobile hardware initiative. 3D Systems will create a high-speed production platform, and it will be Motorola's partner in making 3D printed Aura phone enclosures and modules. Maybe we'll get a modular cell phone soon.
Here's your student leak of the day, folks. Dutch newspaper company NRC published a newspaper article indicating the U.S. NSA placed malware designed to steal sensitive information on more than 50,000 computer networks. The NSA computer attacks are performed by a special department called TAO. It stands for Tailored Access Operations. Bespoke, maybe, would be another name. I don't know.
It's an end of an era. John Carmack is leaving id Software to join Oculus as its CTO. Now, Carmack is the programmer responsible for Quake, Doom, and is a co-founder of id Software. id Studio director Tom Willits told IGN that Carmack's departure will not affect any current projects.
A new how-to writer named Eric Schmidt has posted a guide to converting to Android from iPhone in 4 steps. The guide posted to Google Plus describes how to back up contacts, turn off iMessaging, ensuring text messages get through, how to sync your iTunes to Google Music, and recommends turning on two-factor authentication. Very responsible. Schmidt was formerly the CEO of Google and now serves as its chairman in addition to his how-to gig.
Yeah, watch it, Schmidt. Know how's my gig. At the FDA says 23andMe.com cannot sell its DNA testing product because the product hasn't received approval or clearance from regulators. 23andMe.com analyzes a buyer's saliva, then alerts them to what diseases they are at risk for. The FDA says that false positives or negatives could lead to dangerous behavior regarding treatment from the 23andMe client.
This episode of Tech News Today brought to you by ProXPN, and more than ever, we got a Snowden leak pretty much every day. You're finding out how the government is looking at your traffic online in a lot of cases. There's plenty of other people who don't admit they're looking at your traffic online, some of them very nefarious, and you need to protect yourself. One of the ways to protect yourself is using a VPN. A virtual private network, especially when you're using the Wi-Fi at a coffee house or a hotel or restaurant, airport. You could be putting your data at risk if you're not protecting it. So do what I do. ProXPN, global VPN provider, works on almost any internet connection, creates a secure encrypted tunnel through which all of your online data passes back and forth. Any online application can work with ProXPN. That means your web browser, your email, your file sharing program, your instant messaging program. ProXPN keeps it all under wraps, hiding it from prying eyes. They use a 512-bit encryption tunnel. They work by either OpenVPN or PPTP. You get to choose. Protect yourself against your ISP 6 strikes rule, bypass internet filtering and blocked websites, bypass geographical restrictions. You can use it on Windows and Mac. They've got an Android and iOS app, both. In fact, there's a new ProXPN app for Android in that Google Play Store. Supports OpenVPN. World-class customer support. Even Steve Gibson from our own Security Now gives it a great review. So go to proxpn.com/twit for more information and to sign up. ProXPN premium accounts are normally $9.95 a month or $74.95 for an entire year. We've got a special offer. Use the code TNT to receive 20% off for the lifetime of your account. That's less than $5 a month on the yearly plan. If you're not satisfied, you can cancel within 7 days for a full refund. So go to proxpn.com/twit, sign up with the code TNT. We thank ProXPN for their support of Tech News Today and for protecting my bits. All right, let's pull out the round table, shake off the dust from the weekend, and ask Chris Knoll to pull up a chair. Christopher Knoll, editor of the Intuit Small Business blog, in the studio. Thanks for coming all the way in, man. That was great.
Thanks for having me. I live right around the corner now.
Awesome. Well, we will have you back more and more often. Then we'll be over at your house.
Sorry about the dusty desk.
Yeah, there's a little bit of lane filth here. I can feel it, but, you know.
Yeah, it's the best kind of filth, though. Don't you agree? Let's.
I'll leave.
Let's get into some tech news before we get ourselves into more trouble. Apple confirming what we talked about last week: $360 million for PrimeSense. They provided the sensor for the first-gen Connect, as we mentioned in the news fuse. They've been working on these smaller sensors, so everybody's like, "Oh, what they're going to do? They're going to put that Capri sensor in an iPad or an iPhone." Now we know it really happened. Apple has confirmed it. I won't say what they're going to use it for. Let's just make our best guesses going around the table, starting with you, Chris. What do you think Apple does with this motion sensor company?
Number one, I don't think they exactly know what they're going to do with it yet. But number two, I think there's really only 2 major ways you can use this kind of technology. One is navigation, hands-free paging through web pages, or zooming in and out, or gaming. And I think gaming is a little more interesting. But I think the problem is always with an iPad or an iPhone. You still have to hold it in one hand, and then you've got something going on in the other. So it's tricky. I think there's I think it might take them a while to figure this one out.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious if Apple's going to end up using this in their laptops, because their laptops haven't exactly had any like whiz-bang features for a long time. They've got style, they've got the Retina display, but they don't have anything that's like, oh, that's a really amazing thing, because right now touchscreens are pretty much on every Windows PC. MacBooks lag behind when it comes to that kind of thing. And Steve Jobs' family said nobody wants to have that gorilla arm thing pointing and touching a screen. So maybe this is their way around it. Maybe it can track your eyes a little bit better, that kind of thing. We've seen some of these eye tracking softwares at CES before. I'm thinking that's probably where Apple would use this technology, not necessarily gesture-based wild ideas, but maybe something more subtle, because Apple's about subtle usually.
Yeah.
So maybe so you can interact with your devices without having to constantly reach out and touch them.
I'm
I
thinking
think it's
about
interesting what Chris said about Apple not knowing already what they're going to do with it. And I think a lot of people forget that what Apple does is say, that's a quality design. That's a quality company. Let's take them in and figure out what to do with them. And that we've seen that with PA Semi, which resulted in the A7 chip down the road. But we didn't really know. I don't think that Apple knew exactly how they're going to use them. Lala. Do we even know now what they actually did with Lala? I mean, I guess iCloud, iTunes Match sort of is what they did, but I think you're right. I think Apple says that's good stuff. We think motion sensing is going to be handy, but let's bring them in house and then decide what's the stuff that works well and what doesn't.
Yeah, and you look at some of the phones like the Galaxy have some hands-free technologies, and you look away from the phone and the email stops scrolling. I mean, do people really use them? Are they very popular? How sophisticated has the technology gotten? I find them interesting, and I think they're cool from a incremental standpoint technologically. You know, is that one thing that's going to get you to buy an iPhone 6 because it has gesture-based or eye tracking technology in it, or a new MacBook.
I mean, we've seen Apple iterate on other people's ideas. They have that Touch ID sensor on their iPhone 5S now, and a lot of other devices have had biometrics. But what Apple did is they did it slightly differently. The claim is that it works a lot better than these other ones. A lot of people, at least Apple will say that all the time. It's the best one ever. So maybe what they're going to do, if they're going to have something similar to the Samsung, if they have something tracking your eyes or any of those things, they're going to do it in a way that's the simplest, easiest, nicest way you've ever done it. So maybe we won't see this kind of technology in their products for another year or two, because Apple doesn't just keep a team around. They just take a company, they destroy it, take these people, and they put them everywhere in this big circular campus one day. They just swallow them whole.
It and turn its power into their own.
Yes, Apple amino acids.
Just eat it.
Apps
To gain its courage. I have a Leap Motion for my Mac, and it was fun to play around with for a while, but I always forget to pull it out and plug it in. So being built in is one thing, but also having that use case that you can't live without is the other. And with the fingerprint sensor, they found it. It's making unlocking your phone simpler. That's what everybody who has it says. We'll see if they come up with anything with Prime Sense. Yahoo acquired Katie Couric.
I don't know if they're going to swallow her whole, but Katie Couric just joined Yahoo. It sounds like I'm making this up, but this is actually true. Over the weekend, The Hollywood Reporter said that Katie Couric was going to leave ABC News to come to Yahoo. All Things D had a similar report, and Couric could be designated global news anchor. Today, that became official. Couric has joined Yahoo with the title Global Anchor and starts in early 2014. And in a blog post penned, or at least it's credited to Marissa Mayer, calls Couric the face of Yahoo News. Couric right now has a daytime talk show on ABC. She has a deal with ABC that gave her 2 seasons of a daytime talk show, 3 years at ABC News. The deal was valued around $40 million at the time. Yahoo says Couric's going to continue to host her syndicated daytime talk show called Katie, which I've never seen. The Hollywood Reporter says Couric was personally wooed by Marissa Mayer. Yahoo didn't exactly say what Couric is going to be doing, what kind of show she'll be doing, but All Things D thinks it's going to be exclusive interviews with high-profile celebrities, business executives, and more. All Things D is also saying that Yahoo's talking with Ryan Seacrest as well.
Oh, please. That man has taken over everything. Can he just leave one property alone?
He's got to continue his reign of terror, but Yahoo does have Katie Couric. Chris, does this make sense for either party?
You know, this is funny because I worked at Yahoo about 10 years ago, and back then Terry Semel was the CEO. And if you don't remember Terry, he was the CEO of Warner Brothers, and he was brought in 2001 to turn Yahoo into an entertainment company. He actually did really well. The stock was up 40% a year while he was running the show. But then it got into people's minds that Yahoo needed to compete with Google on search, which was earning 55% a year on its stock, and he got run out. When Semel was there, everything was about entertainment. I mean, when I was hired as a blogger, I signed a talent agreement, not a writer's agreement. And everything was all about Hollywood. And he wanted to make Yahoo into the biggest entertainment company in the land. And he did a pretty decent job of it in retrospect. Yeah. Now you look at what Yahoo's become since he left in 2007, and they've gone through, 4 different CEOs, all of whom have had different strategies and none of which have panned out. So when I first heard about Meyer hiring David Pogue, I thought, oh, this is crazy. She's just going to get somebody who knows something about technology and maybe just try to start a new property. But now it really seems like she is taking on this entertainment strategy once again. And, part of me thinks it's crazy, but the other part of me says, well, it actually was the most successful thing Yahoo's ever done. And in many ways, it makes sense.
I'm not looking at Katie Couric as an entertainment play, personally. I look at this, especially when I'm looking at Marissa Meyer's Tumblr post, and she says, as global anchor, Katie joins Megan Lieberman, who is the editor-in-chief of Yahoo News, David Pogue, Matt Bai. These are 3 members of the New York Times, important members of the New York Times that Yahoo has swayed to come over. And now Katie is going to be the anchor. And I think what she's building is the modern newsroom. She's looking at the fact that we don't need to separate video, print, and radio anymore. So I wouldn't be surprised to see her hire a big name in radio. Maybe that's Ryan Seacrest, although that is much more on the entertainment side that you're talking about, Chris. Katie kind of bridges those worlds. But I think she's saying, I want to build Yahoo into a big, credible news source to be the new network.
I guess I put those two worlds together now. Entertainment and media are almost indistinguishable in this day and age. And I guess I should say, a big media company and not a big entertainment company. But look at what Katie does have this show apparently. Katie so sounds good.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting the way Marissa Meyer phrases it. She says, in addition to being the face of Yahoo News and shooting features for our homepage, Katie will continue to host her syndicated daytime talk show, Katie. It almost implies that Yahoo's going to keep that going somehow, maybe after the 2-year contract with ABC is up. That's being kind of conspiracy theorist there. But she didn't have to throw that in.
It seems kind of strange to me. Katie Couric is, a brand name. She's done really well at the Today Show, moved over to ABC. They helped the ratings out a bit when it came to the big morning talk show, the morning show wars at the time. But coming to Yahoo, that's a pretty big risk, I think, for Couric, actually, because just because Marissa Meyer is there and can woo this person over, that actually shows her negotiation powers to get a big name television star onto Yahoo. That's a huge jump, I think. I mean, there's not a lot of people that go from TV, network television, to the internet and think that's a great idea. This seems like that's a really risky move, I'm thinking, and it could really pay off for Yahoo, because if you go to Yahoo's homepage or you go to their portal or whatever they have, and you see Katie Couric reading you the news or whatever it's going to be, that might be something that is welcomed by the users of Yahoo. Because sometimes we make fun of, like, who's using Yahoo Mail? Who's going to yahoo.com? Apparently people who want to see Katie Couric. So I think this is kind of would go really well together with their strategy, and lots of purple.
Absolutely.
And Chris's point is not lost, whether we call it entertainment or news or whatever. Yahoo essentially emphasizing content right now, when we all thought Marissa Meyer was going to come in and really push it in that search product engineering direction, which she has also done. So I think this is a very interesting strategy to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Console history repeated itself over the weekend. Microsoft claimed they sold 1 million Xbox Ones in less than 24 hours. Sony fans can point out that Xbox One launched in 11 more countries than the PS4. Ha, ha, ha. Microsoft also admitted a problem with optical discs. The issue is affecting a very small number of Xbox One customers. They didn't put a percentage on it like Sony did, but essentially the same thing. There's your Xbox One bug for the launch, which is going to be really annoying if you're the one hearing that grinding noise when you put your optical disc in. I just realized I have not put an optical disc in my Xbox One since I got it on Friday, and I have been using it a bunch. Microsoft is winning the customer service part of this war a little bit. They have something called Advanced Exchange. Now, a lot of people are still frustrated with Microsoft customer service, but Microsoft told to Kotaku, customers have the option for Microsoft to send a replacement console right away without waiting until they have returned their old one, meaning a customer might only have to wait a matter of days rather than weeks to get back up and running. A lot of people complaining with Sony that they have to wait weeks for the old console to arrive and a new console to be shipped out. I have to say, in my experience playing with the Xbox One over the weekend, they have a lot of the same games right now, and the PS4 is certainly the better gaming machine. I wanted to play Resogun, and there's no really Xbox One arcade equivalent to that kind of stuff. But I found myself using the Xbox One more often because it's plugged in with my television. I've got my DirecTV running right through it. So when I'm watching TV, if I decide, oh, you know what, I might want to play a game, it's so easy to just even talk to the Kinect, which works 50% of the time. If that gets better, it'll be even more awesome. But just say, like, yeah, I I want to play a game now, pick up that controller and start playing it rather than switch an input. I know that sounds silly, like it's not that hard to switch an input, but it is that sleekness that you're already doing the thing you're doing, and it's easy to go back and forth, that I think is an advantage for the Xbox One. It's not the only advantage, though. Chris, do you have a favorite in this horse race? Do you think Microsoft winning the war of customer service here is giving them an advantage, or has Sony still got all the momentum?
Well, I think that history has shown us that this kind of war is not won in the first week of sales, and that's going to take years and years of gamesmanship, so to speak, to determine who's going to be the winner. I really though, Tom, can you tell your Xbox that you want to play a game on the PS4? That's the question.
Sort of. You could plug your PS4 into the HDMI pass-through, and then when you say watch TV, it'll switch to the PS4. Then you got to pick up your PS4 controller. Can't control the game.
Yeah, the claim is supposed to be there's a lag, though, that actually makes the gaming a little bit worse. So if you
tiny bit of lag, yeah.
But I don't think it's the best idea right now. And there's also all kinds of things that HDMI doesn't support, including Dolby, which is really sad. I wanted to run my whole AVR through this thing in theory, but that's not going to work. But yeah, I think, Chris, you're totally right. This first week means very little. This is going to be a long haul. Microsoft's still iterating its software because they like I mentioned, this Dolby thing doesn't work. They do have a software, a beta. Once you do this firmware upgrade, you can actually have Dolby through the HDMI pass-through. So there's going to be a lot more features that come in, I'm thinking, for the PS4 and the Xbox over time. Because if you look at what the Xbox 360 and the PS3 turned out to be over the 7-8 year period, how they started, it doesn't look anything like what they started with.
Right.
So
exactly.
It's going to be like year 3 or 4 where we're like, oh, that's what they were trying to do. And they have the luxury of being able to pull this off because they have the big brand names. They've got the big games. They've got lots of support, big feverish fanboys coming in for all this stuff. So they have a lot of momentum in general, that this is something that Nintendo wished they had time, luxury to actually iterate over time. And they tried that, but it's just not working. But these are the two top dogs, and we're going to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think it's very likely we're going to see a two-horse race that both companies are going to do well. I think both of these consoles will be successful in the long term, and they'll both survive and thrive.
Yeah, I have to say my advice hasn't changed much. Sony's the better bargain. Xbox One has its advantages. It kind of depends on who you are, which one you should get. But I would say to everybody, wait until they've worked out some of the bugs and they've fixed some of these early issues and they've got more games out. There's still a limited amount of things that you can do with them right at launch. So if somebody asked me without telling me anything else about them, which one should I get? I would say neither. Hold off. Because, like you say, it's a two-horse race for the consoles. There's also PC gaming, especially with the Steam box coming out next year, that's going to make this very interesting.
There's also the curiosity of, these Android-based things like Ouya, these $100 machines that are out there.
Yeah.
And they're not actually taking away what seems to be a big push for these consoles, because people have been waiting for these mainstream consoles for a long time. So even though they have all these casual gaming boxes out there that are low cost, there's still this demand for these really expensive devices. This is what, it's $500 for the Xbox One. It's $400. This is not like some cheap device, but there's still a huge demand even for something so premium.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break. Thank our other sponsor for today's show, Stamps. Holidays are here. You don't got time to go to the post office. You don't have time for anything. If you can make one less trip out there in traffic land, or even in the grocery store, you're going to have to fight for parking. Can you imagine what it's going to be like near the post office? Depending on where you live, it might be almost impossible. Don't do it. It's going to be packed. Use Stamps.com instead. At Stamps.com, you can avoid all the hassle of going to the post office during the busy holiday season. Everything you do there, you can do right from your home, from your desk. You can buy and print official U.S. postage using your own computer and printer. Sometimes you can even customize the stamps with cool art. I get that from Scott Johnson all the time. Print postage for any letter or package the instant you need it. Then the mailman picks it up. It's easy and convenient. I love when I review a product that Stamps.com is involved, because once I'm done, I put it in the box, tape it up, print out the stamps, and give it to the postal carriers coming to my house anyway. Easy and convenient. Right now, you get this special offer when you use our promo code TNT. No risk trial, plus a $110 bonus offer. And you may say, well, wait a minute, Tom, one of the problems with this, you're making it sound very easy, but if I've got a package, I got to tell the post office how much it weighs if I don't want to waste money. Well, guess what? Stamps.com is going to give you a digital scale and up to $55 in free postage. So you'll get the scale, you'll be able to weigh everything. It's yours to keep. You don't have to pay for it, and you get some free stamps. Don't wait. Go to Stamps.com before you do anything else. Click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in TNT. That's Stamps.com. Enter TNT. Save yourself some time. We thank Stamps.com for their support of Tech News Today. All right, now lots of new products trying to get your attention before the big sales come here in the United States at the end of the week. And Amazon's trying to win the PPI race for your e-reader, your e-ink e-reader.
Yeah, but this product is being rumored right now. TechCrunch has a report that Amazon's working on a new Paperwhite that won't come out till next year. It launched in Q2, and this Paperwhite's codenamed Ice Wine. Good code name there. It'd have a high-resolution 300 PPI screen. The current model right now, 212 PPI. That's pixels per inch, if you're wondering what that stands for. TechCrunch's sources say Amazon was a bit irritated when Kobo shipped a 265 PPI screen on its Aura HD. They both use e-ink as their supplier of screens, so they're a little bit perturbed. Hardware changes. So TechCrunch says it's seen a prototype of the actual device. The front screen is flush with the edges of the device instead of recessed. It's made of a matte. The screen itself is made of a matte glass and not plastic. The Ice Wine's supposed to be lighter than the current model. It also have an ambient light sensor to adjust screen brightness. The edges of the device would have squeezable buttons, so you can actually flip pages a lot easier. They also give off haptic feedback. Design changes as well. It's going to look a little bit more like the Kindle HDX, so a lot more angular shapes. On the software side, not a lot of changes, but apparently some new typography that's supposed to make it a lot easier to read on there. One of the big complaints is the choices of fonts. Chris, this make you excited to buy an e-ink reader like the Kindle Paperwhite Ice Wine?
Well, Amazon says that the Kindle remains and has been for years their #1 selling product. And I see people using them all the time still, even in the era of iPad and iPhone ubiquity. I think these are great. These are great advances. I mean, extra resolution on the screen, bring it up to 300 PPI is a good move. It sounds, from the way it's been described, like the right way to go. And I think this is when you're Amazon, you have no other choice but to continue to iterate this technology and make Kindle the best product it can be in order to prevent defections to other products. Sounds fun. Sounds like a good product to me.
I can't disagree with all that, but it also is like, I don't know. To me, it's like saying that the new printer has a better dots per inch printing. And maybe that excites a lot of people. This doesn't excite me at all. It's Paperwhite, right? It wasn't supposed to be Paperwhite before. Now it's even Paperwhiter. And maybe it's because I don't use an e-ink reader anymore. And I know that that's a niche market that's very excited about things like typography and resolution and all that sort of thing. But this seems like the narrowing end of a market where you really, 265 PPI. Well, we're going to beat that with another 35 pixels per inch. There are definitely folks out there who care about that. I'm not sure how many of them there are.
Yeah, in theory, it's supposed to make it easier to read, right? So that way you can read for longer amounts of time. E-ink's supposed to be a lot easier on the eyes versus something like an LCD or OLED screen or AMOLED, whatever you're using. The weird thing is I have a Kindle Paperwhite, the previous generation. I thought I was going to read on it all the time. Because the Kindle app's on everything, I wind up reading on my phone, on my iPad, and rarely will I even pick up the Paperwhite. It just sits there, and I was excited about this because I've been a fan of e-readers for a long time because back when I was a student, I hated carrying tons. I mean, it wasn't tons, maybe like 50, 60 pounds worth of books. That's pretty freaking heavy. So if you can actually have it in a small device, that seemed intriguing to me, but it seems like tablets have usurped this. And what it kind of irritates me is that nothing in this report says anything about a color screen or a color version of this. I know people like comic books. I saw somebody in the chat room mentioning comic books as an option. I know that we got these great devices out there like tablets, but why is there no color version of e-ink right now? There is Mirasol displays. They do exist. I'm still surprised that doesn't exist for Amazon as something to kind of get your attention. It's bright colors on a device that uses low power. That would be really intriguing, but not on this Paperwhite.
Yeah, they don't want to compete with the HDX. I think that's why you don't see color on e-ink. There, it's like you want the low-cost option, $120 for Paperwhite, or the $200 and some bucks for the HDX, and putting something in the middle there. Maybe I don't know how expensive the color e-ink screens are, but that might be the trouble. I also think
I imagine that's it. You're right.
Yeah,
that is the cost of color, right?
The issue about I don't use a Kindle regularly either. But I see them used voraciously by people. Even if you take a trip to the beach now, you'll see just people with Kindles just all over the place, and they're not using iPads or tablets because they're not readable in the sunlight. There's people on subways using them because I think they're less prone to theft and they're more portable. So I think it's going to be a big market for the voracious reader market, which is actually pretty big and is Amazon's core customer.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. And in fact, I know you're right. I just don't know that audience responds to 35 pixels per inch more resolution as much as it does to the price. So not that Amazon shouldn't do this. I'm not advising against it if it does turn out to be true. And we should emphasize that this is just a rumor, not an actual announcement from Amazon. But I'm not sure it's a game changer anymore. And maybe it is. Maybe it is in that market because somebody can go buy a Kobo down at the local Barnes and Noble, and Amazon needs to make sure that those specs look better so that they're more willing to buy it. But I think Amazon probably has so many advantages already. This is just them dotting their I's and crossing their T's. Let's talk about the guy who wants to take your job doing how-tos, Ayaz Akhtar.
Yeah.
This new upstart, Eric Schmidt.
He's got nothing better to do, huh?
He put a post on Google+. It's definitely a marketing post about switching from iPhone to Android. And it's full of phrases, about how much you're going to love it when you switch. He says, like the people who moved from PCs to Macs and never switched back, you will switch from iPhone to Android and never switch back as everything will be in the cloud backed up. And there are so many choices for you. He says he wrote the guide, though, not because of marketing, because his friends are always asking him, hey, I'm switching to Android. You got any tips? So he wanted to have a helpful guide in one place. And honestly, that could probably be true. And the steps are pretty good. They include backing up your contacts to iCloud first, turning off iMessage to make sure your text messages don't get blocked, even turning on two-factor authentication. He's a little flippant about old photos. He's like, just leave them there. If you really need them, I guess you can send them to Gmail. Now, throwing around switch propaganda is to be expected, especially at this time of year when people are shopping for new stuff. But this does seem to be a well-thought-out and useful tutorial. Does it work as a marketing tool, or is it better as how-to, or is it both? Chris, what do you make of this?
This seems like something that Eric Schmidt put together over the weekend, and he thought, you know what, I'm going to get us another 0.1% of market share with this. The tips are okay. There's no photos. I mean, it's not like a newcomer is going to go gobble down this giant block of text and say, oh, well, now I'm getting rid of my iPhone because Eric Schmidt posted this monster guide on how to switch. He also doesn't discuss how to get my soul back if I leave my phone. But anyway,
you already gave that to Apple, so you lost it already.
You're right. I don't know. I think it's a cute little thing, but it seems like something that I don't know. It's a little beneath him.
I don't know if it's beneath him, but the idea that it's all text, I mean, it showed a limit. That's the first thing I noticed is when you're looking at these guides, you want there to be something broken out. And yes, he has them numbered and everything, but it actually shows the limitation of Google Plus a bit
Right.
because you can't just put a photo in there. You can put things bold if you know the little tricks of putting asterisks around the words. If you want them strike through, there are all these little tricks you can use because there's no WYSIWYG editor when it comes to Google Plus posts. So it's kind of strange. But if you're going to have this kind of guide, it wouldn't surprise me if Eric actually had written this stuff up before in emails to people because it's like, okay, look, I'm Eric Schmidt. I can get you an Android phone. Here you go. I've sent this email out to you 100 times. Why not just post it here for everybody to read? But it definitely shows a limitation about Plus here when you have these instructions. It's well thought out. It's written really easily. The idea of leaving your photos behind, I'm surprised he didn't say, get the Google Plus app, upload your photos automatically.
Right.
So he didn't go that far. So maybe that flippant attitude was not even thought of. Like he's like, yeah, you know what? Nobody really uses that, so he didn't bother to. He didn't promote Plus. He promotes Android more than anything here. So it's definitely an interesting thing. And I didn't realize his profile photo was this really old one. He looks like a little kid.
Yeah, I think that's new.
Is that recent?
I have not noticed this on his profile photo, but maybe I just wasn't paying attention.
I feel like this absolutely was him saying, I always have to rewrite these things, so I'm going to put it up on Google Plus and then be able to point people to it. And as a side effect, it will make news and it'll work as this great way of getting people to switch over to Android. I imagine the marketing team was probably not consulted, or it would be a little slicker and it would have a few more things into it. It does strike me as something that Eric wrote. It's well written, but you're right. It's not comprehensive and it doesn't hit all the points. And it doesn't mention, for instance, the Google Plus Photos thing. I can't imagine some PR person wouldn't have changed that line about, don't worry about photos. That seems authentic, Eric Schmidt here. He's just rogue. He'll do whatever he wants.
He's a wild man.
All right. Speaking of pictures, Instagram is the most popular, I would believe, place for people to upload photos these days. And there's a rumor that they might be adding a messaging aspect to it.
Yeah, I'm just rumor mongering today, but Om Malik reports that Instagram is going to launch a new private messaging feature. He said the company is also experimenting with the idea of group messaging. And there's not a whole lot in this world other than this might come out by the end of the year. So that's the entirety of the rumor here. But Chris, do you think Instagram needs a messaging option? I mean, it's a photo sharing area. Do you need to, is this kind of like feature creep, or is this something that's necessary in something like Instagram?
I think it's feature creep. I think you called it. It's a question of, do you need it? No. Does it hurt to have it? No. Does it keep people in the app a little bit longer? Some people, even 5% of the users, maybe. So, why not do it? Because what else is Instagram adding to the app at this point?
Ads.
Okay.
Like, what else are they
So
adding?
you need to counter that with something, right?
Yeah, I was looking at the story, and like, and Om makes a point. He thinks that most apps should have a messaging feature in general, and that seems like an interesting idea. But I'm just kind of curious why Instagram would need something like that. Obviously, they're owned by Facebook at this point. Facebook has pretty much everything for everything. They have their own messaging feature, so to easily bring that over, or there's no mention if this is tied to Facebook Messenger at all. It probably would be the back end, same kind of thing. But Instagram, I think it would make a lot of sense to have private messaging because you do have these comments on photos. Sometimes you want to say something to somebody who put up a photo, but how do you do that? If you don't want to do it publicly, you have to find their email address or something else and then connect it with them on Facebook, then send them a message. So it might keep people more entertained and engaged with it. But I don't know I don't think it's a horrible feature. It's just this little extra thing. If they keep adding more and more Facebook-like things, that's when I think trouble's going to happen for Instagram.
Well, let's be clear. They haven't added this yet. They haven't even announced that they're adding it. GigaOM says that they're working on it. And I would think they would be. I would think that part would be absolutely true. They would be considering this. When you look at, Line just hit however many millions of subscribers. It's shooting up like crazy as a popular worldwide messaging app. Not so popular here in the U.S., but it's popular all over the place. And KakaoTalk and WeChat and Snapchat. We talk about those all the time. So I would think Instagram would be looking at that saying, is that a trend we should fit in? Let's explore that. And that might be all this story is somebody getting wind of the fact that Instagram has been playing around with that to see if it fits. I don't instantly see how it fits into a photo sharing service, but I'm like you, Chris. I don't think it would harm anything as long as it didn't harm anything, right? As long as they didn't change the way the photo sharing and the way the photo app works, I think it would be just a very ill-used feature here. Or maybe Instagram's looking to pivot and become like, we're not just photos anymore. We're photos and videos and messaging and stickers and games. And I would hope that that's not the way they go.
Well, there's the story of increasing disillusionment with Facebook as well. And if you have users, especially younger users who are leaving Facebook, and this is a way to keep them at least using a Facebook product in Instagram, then maybe that makes even more sense.
I want to make sure that if this comes out, I want to make sure that there's a filter. What I write, maybe like a sarcasm filter or something else that could be added. Because if they're gonna have just a normal messaging feature, that's lame. I want to have some '80s style, Polaroid looking.
I know
messages.
I know you're joking, but that would be a way to differentiate it, right? If there was some spin on like, we'll have some AI that helps make your messages better somehow.
It'd have to be
that
a pager system.
Yeah.
That'd be the rad filter. So you could be like, oh, cowabunga, that was, what did they say in the 80s?
I'm going to use the 40s slang on all of my messages. It's 23 skidoo. Let's fire up the randomizer. Why not?
Just sitting there.
Jason's got it all warmed up.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't even close. 69% of you voted for the cryptic internet scavenger hunt that has baffled cyber experts for 2 years. Chris Bell from The Telegraph, reprinted on the Business Insider, has the detailed story of a few examples of people hunting this down. And it's this very Daniel Suarez demon-like situation where a lot of people thought it was an augmented reality game or an extended universe game for a promotional aspect because you had to decrypt something, and then when you decrypted something, it led you to another clue, like a weird Reddit numbers posting subreddit, and then that led you to decode some GPS coordinates, and you actually found a poster in real life with a QR code on it, and eventually You had to, if you were far enough along in the game, you had to sign in at a certain time, and then you were accepted into the private game, and nobody knows what's happened after that. The people who got accepted haven't talked about it much. Another game began on January 4th of this year. That one has wound up and accepted its secret people in. There's things from Aleister Crowley in here and Mayan numerology. It's just really, really odd, weird, fascinating secret society stuff. And another one's apparently going to be happening January 4th, 2014. I guess it was January 5th, 2012. So January 4th, 2014. They always like to do them. You could be looking at another one. Do you guys think this is some kind of recruiting program for either a hacker organization or an intelligence service, or do you think it's just somebody out there having fun?
Well, you know, I solved the first one, but it turned out the private game was just Minesweeper, so I gave up on it.
The prototype back in 2011. I see. Yeah.
No, that's a good angle if it actually is some kind of recruitment thing at the end. You're like, hey, guess what? You just joined the NSA. You know, congratulations. But I don't know how people have patience to do this kind of thing. Good on them for that, because this also requires you to leave the house, and I'm not doing that. So good luck with that.
It did. Yeah, I mean, and it was using, they had an encrypted version of the Lady of the Fountain story from the Mabinogion, the Celtic folktales collection from ancient times. Just insane. A lot of 4chan, a lot of Reddit involvement. It's definitely an ARG, whether it's meant to be an ARG in promotion of something else or just its own or a recruitment tool. I can't tell, but it's really fascinating. We'll have the link in the show notes for you to take a look at. All right, let's fire up the calendar. We got one thing on there. Sarah Lane will be back with the calendar on Wednesday, but for today, HP earnings report tomorrow. We'll see how much farther Megan Whitman has turned the ship when she gives her shareholders call tomorrow afternoon. And I think we have an email.
Incoming message.
It's a message from Joel. Howdy, TNT folks. You asked last week who would be using MapQuest and why. Well, an answer is me. And because I got tired of being lost. My job entails driving to rural customer sites, and the other smartphone apps consistently either could not find the address, or worse, found the address, but led me to the entirely wrong place. After weeks of field trials using several apps, MapQuest is the app that most consistently gets me to the correct place and is therefore my first choice. So here is a statistically irrelevant and totally subjective answer to your question. Well,
that's really interesting. I think maybe MapQuest's advantage in that situation is just having been around longer to find bugs and strange routes, especially in rural locations that are less visited, less frequented. That could be a big advantage. I haven't heard them tout it, though, if it is. That's interesting.
It's like, yeah, when you're in the middle of nowhere, use MapQuest.
MapQuest, we won't drive you off the end of a bridge anymore. That was 10 years ago.
Actually, I think the Apple Maps logo, if you look at the icon, it's actually making a left turn off of a highway.
Yeah.
So, which is impossible because you're not supposed to be jumping off the highway. But
that's right. Apple makes the impossible possible with Apple.
I think they fixed that in iOS 7.
Did they?
Yeah.
They flattened
that
it.
was a big...
They flattened that turn.
Like I said, incremental updates. It's all incremental.
Right. Well, that's it for this episode of Tech News Today. Thank you, Chris, for joining us. It's great to have you on again. Let folks know about your blog, what you're up to over there at Intuit.
Yeah, I run blog.intuit.com, all about small business news. We do tech stuff and financing and all the good stuff about running your own small company.
Check it out, blog.intuit.com. Also, check out our subreddit at technewstoday.reddit.com if you'd like to have an effect on what stories we have, especially the randomizer, things that go in the news fuse, even discussion stories. I think we pulled a couple out of those today. Check it out. It's one of the things we look at, and you can be involved at technewstoday.reddit.com. You can also email us, tnt@twit.tv. Give us a call, leave us a voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you like, youtube.com/technewstoday. And, of course, subscribe to the podcast and get all the show notes and everything at twit.tv/TNT. We will be back tomorrow, and we'll have Patrick Norton on the show. Looking forward to that. We'll see you then.